Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another round table. My name is Jeff, and we're back home with on no as always with this thing. It tends to go around the different YouTubers and whatnot. I like to change the host as much as I can, but we've brought it back to No Nonsense Whiskey for today, and we've got some great guests and a great little subject. Something I want to say up front just before we get to the technical difficulties today, which is ironic considering the topic of the day. It shouldn't affect the stream too much. However, I can hear myself through my ears for some unknown reason. I had a few updates just before the stream, and that's going to be fun. So I will try my hardest to remain the consummate professional as always. But if I seem distracted at any point while I'm talking, it's because I can hear what you can hear about 2 seconds after I say it in my ears. So yeah, luckily none of the other guys are having the same problem. So we'll just go with it and see what happens. But yes, So yeah, just to let everyone know what we've got on today. We've got it's the 10th one, in fact, actually, the 10th one, which is really cool. I'm really happy about it. Really glad that we can even do this thing. Andrew Butler saying audio is a bit soupy. I'm not surprised, to be honest, because it's a bit of it. Yeah, I don't want to go into it too much, but basically, I had an update on some software that literally an hour before go live, and it's caused all kinds of trouble. So basically, I spent a good hour or two sorting it out. Yeah, so hopefully, sounds a bit muted. Maybe I can turn that up a little bit. Let me see if that's any good. Yeah, I can play with all stuff like that as we're going on because I have messed with it a little. How's that? Bit better? Um, there we go. Yeah. So one thing I wanted to shout out before we get into the actual, seeing how everyone is in the chat is you may have seen a little initiative from a good friend of mine, Jeff Whisky, on Instagram and whatnot recently. But we have the English Whiskey Awards coming up. Now, this is me doing this. I will say it's mostly Jeff, not entirely Jeff. I'm being a little bit part of it, so I don't think I've put a link in the description, but I will put a link in the chat a bit later on. But if you're interested, it's uh, a little bit similar to what the Oswars is for Scotch whisky and world whisky, but heavily focused on English whisky. So you can have your say and do a bit of voting. But yeah, if not, I'll drop a link in a little bit later on when I've got a bit more headspace to do so. But hopefully, you'll be enjoying that. It's something that we've been very excited about. So yeah, very, 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 very cool. Okay, best thing to do then is get chat and say hello to everybody. Hopefully, audio is coming through much nicer now. Um, let me know. If not, and I'll see what I can do about it. Probably not much, is the truth, to be honest. Having a bit of a mare. But yeah, straight in. We've got Whiskey Share saying evening all. Frank's in as well. Thank you very much. Jeff is in. He is listening along by the sound of it. Yeah, so and he's working as well. So that's basically how things go with us, and we'll be getting into that quite heavily as we go along. I am sure. Who else have we got? We've got Where's Roy? Something I think I'm always asking. Greg's Whiskey Guide is in. Tim's in. David's in. Peter Mark is in. Nice one. Andrew Butler's in, of course. Scrolling down, drinks whiskey, of course. You all know who's going to be on the stream. Eric is in. Thank you very much for coming in. Peter Mark's asking what everyone's drinking. We'll do a little bit of a round table up here when we get everyone in. We start talking to everybody. We'll go there. We've got Highland Hamish is in. Nice one. Whiskey Liberation Front. Thanks for coming in, Legion. We've got keep going. There we go. Jeff's put a link down for us now. So, if it's going to take you off the stream, please don't do it now. But at some point, there's only 3 categories, so it should be fairly easy to go for. And don't worry if you're not that well versed in English whiskey. The whole point of it is to raise the profile of English whiskey. So, go on there. Find some new brands to follow, and we'll go from there. Greg saying still sounding average, but nobody else has had any complaints, I don't think. So, I mean, yeah, sorry, we're going to have to go with it, I'm afraid, but that's where we are. Right, okay, quick intro then of what we're doing today. Now, I'm not sure where we came up with this idea, but basically on my Discord, some of the whiskey tubers we chat on there a little bit privately so that we can kind of help each other grow, give ideas. And a lot of the things we talk about is the challenges behind the scenes, things that are wrong for us, a bit of a life rant, whatever, so we can see what happens to everyone. So what I thought we would do is come along today and talk a little bit about how we balance our real life. For me, I've got a full-time job, I've got a family, and I've got my whiskey stuff. This it takes real hours to make, and we'll go into all of that with our 3 guests in a bit. But I thought it might be interesting for you guys to really get a ear behind the door about what we perceive our challenges are, and how we go about making sure that the content that we want to produce gets out in time and all things like that. We've got a lot of talking points. So best thing to do then, we'll get in our first guest. I'm going to bring in Toby first. If Toby's ready. And I'm going to put my earphones in now, so that's going to distract me hardcore, but we'll see. Oh, it's a good 5 seconds behind as well. There we go. Hello, Toby. How are you doing today?
Hi, Vin. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, there's definitely some challenges being a whiskey tuber and balancing life in general, but hopefully we can discuss what those challenges are, and I'm sure people in the comments will, have similar life experiences, outside of whiskey, where they're balancing different hobbies and stuff along with their daily life. So it's just a different topic that we probably all struggle with, balancing that work life sort of struggles, I suppose.
Definitely. Can I just double check you can still hear me, right?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. That's good, because to derail it a little bit, I can still hear me, but I can't hear you twice anymore. So that's good. We're good.
Okay. But yeah, and obviously I'll introduce myself
Sorry.
briefly for those that don't know. I'm Toby. I'm Whiskey Shared, and I do whiskey reviews and blind tastings weekly on YouTube and other socials.
Sorry, Toby, I've lost you again. 1 sec. Come on. Right. I think I can hear you again now.
Okay. Hear me all right? No?
Oh dear. I can't hear you again. Okay, what I'm going to do is bring David on. And I'm going to try and get you to talk to each other for a bit, if that's okay. Sorry to be a pain.
No worries.
There you go.
Hi, guys.
Can you hear each other?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear Toby.
Yeah, so if you want to introduce yourself.
If you won't mind, please discuss a couple of challenges.
Yeah.
Nothing too in-depth while we do, or maybe what you're drinking. And I'm going to mute myself while I have a little click around, because I've lost all of it now again.
Evening, everyone. I'm David, drinks whiskey. It's my second whiskey round table, a very fitting one. As I was coming to do this, my wife was like, see, you've got plenty of content. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, you've just finished work, then you've played with your daughter, fed your daughter, helped me with bath time, and now you're running out the door to go and do this. And I think all 4 of us on this will have plenty of those stories to tell, and the juggles and the fun of it all. But as Toby said, the quick intro, if you don't know who I'm David, drinks whiskey. I run about the place doing drams on the run, out and about at whiskey events. I do Black Lodge rambles, but my content isn't as consistent as these guys, and it's precisely for the reasons that we're going to discuss tonight. And I think Vin's given us a thumbs up. I think, are we back on board?
Yeah. So I can still hear myself, but I can hear you again. So that's fine.
Fantastic.
Okay, sorry about that, everybody. This is exactly how it goes. Trying to fit everything in. So what I'll do is I'll bring Tim in, and we'll let him do an intro. How you doing, Tim?
Hey, how's it going? It's been a struggle out of the gate here, but thanks again for hosting, Vin, and I'm excited to be here to do some shop. If people don't know, this is my first roundtable, so I'm a US-based channel. We do Scotch whiskey. Occasionally I drift over and try out some other stuff, but it's mostly Scotch whiskey, lots of reviews, some lists, and that type of thing. Trying to do some blind tastings when we can. I got a tournament I do in March. That's a blind. I repurpose an advent calendar and do a blind tasting tournament. We call it Malt Madness. So put those to good use.
Excellent. And how long have you been doing YouTube now?
will be 2 years and 3 weeks. 3 weeks from now is my second year. So it's been one where I sort of made a sort of kind of commitment or push to try to do. I do weekly, once a week. That's about all I can fit in the balance, which we can get into. I can't keep pace, Vin. I don't know how you do it. 3 a week, but I do the one, and it's I haven't missed. I don't think this year. So I've been pretty plugging away at it pretty well. But yeah, it's nice to see the growth that you get from the consistency.
That's good, and we'll sort of delve into that a bit because I've been fairly consistent myself. Obviously, a few bits here and there dropping, but I'm glad to hear that you haven't missed yet, because the first miss is quite painful, but you do get used to it.
Well, get into there's supposed to be. I've heard some people talk about that it doesn't punish you as much as it used to, but I don't think it's good. So.
Yeah, no, you're dead right, and that's definitely something we'll delve into. I think the first thing we should do then is get some drink in my glass, at least. I think you guys have got something already. I'm opening something fresh. I've just had this delivered today, Loch Lomond 16. I don't know anything about this at all. Lucky enough to be sent it. So let's get a brand new pop. That's the first thing I've heard twice that I've enjoyed.
Great. It's a great sound.
There we go. Toby, what have you got in your glass?
So I've just poured an Annandale. Let's see if it'll focus. Annandale from Stilling Cask. If you're not familiar with Stilling Cask, it's a platform that lets you buy a cask share bottle at a time, and that's just come of age. It's aged 6 years. I think it was maybe 18 months, 2 years ago, I bought the share, and yeah, it's just been bottled. I've just been nosing it. It's really nice. I haven't tasted it yet, so. And it's cask strength, obviously single cask, natural colour, non-chill filtered.
Is that your first pour?
Yeah, first pour, first nosing, yeah.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I'd be interested to see what you think.
It smells really good at the minute.
I've got a few of these cask shares waiting to mature, so yeah, we'll see how they go.
Yeah, I think I've got another 4 maybe, so 1 a year for the next 4 years.
Mine have stacked up really weird because they're all circumstance ones. So I've got 1 in January, 1 in March, and then 1 in December next year. So they're coming thick and fast. I
think I've got a circumstance barley that I picked because I thought that'd be a little bit different. Because obviously they do quite unusual grains, don't they? But I went for what is considered everyday sort of standard.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot of weird, wonderful stuff on Stilling Cask, and I wasn't brave enough to grab one of the other ones. Fair play to you. Okay, David, what have you got in your glass?
I've went for an Oswa nominated number. I've been quite ill the last couple of days, and I probably shouldn't have anything, but it's medicine, technically, where I'm from. So went for the Glengarry 12 to see if my palate's still there. It was a friend of ours that was round on Friday night. We had people round to wet his baby's head, and he messaged today saying he's got COVID. So I took the test, all good, but I've been a little bit ropey. So I figured, you know what, I'll go for a good old faithful dram that I know what it tastes like. Does it still taste like it? Still tastes like it. All good.
I remember going through COVID and just having exactly the same thing, not trying anything new, getting some of the old stuff that I know how it tastes and just trying it every day until I could taste it again. But that was a real killer for me because that was probably one of the first times I wasn't consistent. So when you're ill, you're ill. And I guess we'll get into that.
My very first one is me discovering I have COVID because I couldn't smell the whiskey. And I kept it up. I just I paused the recording, read the back of the bottle, and then pretended that's what I could smell and taste. Integrity and all.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's a good point because when I do my videos, I've done my research. I've done my tastings throughout the week or whatever. I've got my little, I've got my little journal now that I do all my tasting notes in. So I could be like completely nose blind by the time I actually do the video, because I mean, for all anyone knows, that might not even be the whiskey that's in the glass. It is, but it might not be. The point is that I've done my research. I've written the video. I'm just doing the voice part. So it's, why not, right? If that's the way it works, it's the way it works.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've got an interesting story related to COVID and tasting whiskey. When I first got COVID, I lost my sense of taste for about 4 weeks. I lost my sense of smell for about 7. And fortunately, I had a number of videos sort of lined up, all ready to go. And the last video I did before I got everything, back to my senses back to normal, I had to do it purely on my tasting notes. So what I was tasting and smelling wasn't exactly as it was, but it was, from memory, effectively from my notes. So yeah, that one was a bit of a bluff, but they were my official tasting notes, so I wasn't just making it up.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. I think what I'm going to do is take my earphone out every time I speak so that I don't hear my own voice. But Tim, did we ask you what was in your glass? I don't think we did we?
I've got a real blast from the past here. I opened this last night. This is the old Mortlock line when they were trying to go prestige. This is the Mortlock 18. Diageo thought that maybe Mortlock could be their Macallan. Spoiler, it didn't work out. And then they overhauled the line. So I had this old bottle lying around. And so I'm going to be doing this on Halloween, Ghost of Discontinued Whisky's Past. So that's a flash forward for coming up next, not this week, but next week. I'm going to be doing this. So I've got it open now. Like we're talking about the process. I try to have the bottle open at least a week before I really commit to do the review, to give it some time to breathe. So that's one of the things you got to think about, right? As part of the process, it's the lead time and the runway. I can't just grab a bottle and pop. Some people, it's just a different experience. I like to have the pro sort of experience with it. So I don't review the neck pour, but that's a glimpse behind. Here we are on whatever this is, Tuesday, and that's Friday's video.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't review the neck pour either. I think that I think 9 times out of 10 the neck pour is probably fine, but I would say largely it changes. Bottles change as they go down. I mean, I can't wait until right at the end, the heel kill, before I review a bottle. I'd never get round to it. But a good, past the shoulder like this. I mean, by the time this makes it to air, it'll be down by the label, I imagine, at the very least. And I certainly wouldn't give any notes on it today, because it's just not fair on it. I don't think neck pour is too much of a thing. Bottle shock, I think, is a thing. That's no scientific evidence for it at all. But that's literally just arrived today. So it's been in a van, probably overnight, being rocked about and shook about. So yeah, quite agree that it really is part of the journey. But yeah, it's exactly that. Like you've got to plan these things and fit them in somehow. So yeah, really, that's the first topic then, is fitting video production into your week and your month. My story really is that I was the same as what Tim said, about 1 a week for many years. Now, thankfully, I can do 2 or 3, but that's really because my production time is cut down by experience. So I've managed to really streamline my process. But the only way that I can achieve it is to have a Thursday release day. And then what I do is I set Monday as my recording day. And what that does is give me a buffer. So if for some reason I can't make it on the Monday, if I fall ill or something like that, or I get too tired and I can't be bothered, I've always got Tuesday or Wednesday to fall back on. But realistically, these days, if I don't manage to record it by Tuesday, I just don't put something out that week, because it's too stressful. It's too stressful to try and fit it in. But I know that I'm not very typical, because I'm doing it very hand to mouth. I'm literally, what you see on screen, I've recorded that week, because I don't want to sit there, with videos shot for ages and ages. I've got a few in the skyrocket, as they say. But I know, Toby, for instance, you do things slightly different, don't you?
Yeah. So like you, I've nailed down the process to, it does become a bit of a machine. You know, you have a process that you follow, and when you're making videos that are similar, you can shoot them quicker, you can edit them quicker, and obviously you can process them and put them on YouTube quicker. But there are parts of the process I don't like at all. But when I'm creating videos and thinking about what I'm going to do, I'm always thinking at least a month ahead. So I'm always thinking, like, for now, I'm thinking, what am I going to do in November? What's the theme? What bottles have I got? And I try to shoot at least 2 videos a week, and obviously 1 video goes out. And if I can get ahead of myself and do shooting on 2 days, then I can get maybe 4 videos done that week. And if I can do 5 in 2 weeks, then that's normally all of the month done, because I only do 1 a week, so that's 4 to 5 videos I have to do each month. So, but when I build them up, you do get, life gets in the way, and sometimes you just don't feel like doing it. And you can be thinking, right, Monday I'm going to shoot, and if I can't do Monday, I'll do Tuesday. And then it gets to Thursday and you haven't shot, and you sort of think, I'm just not in the mood for this. So sometimes that's why I'm building up a buffer, because life gets in the way. Plus, you just don't want to, you know, set everything up and film, because, you know, what you see here is my dining room. So I physically have to put everything out and set it up for, you know, shooting every time I do it. So I try to do 2 or 3 videos, or sometimes I've even done 4 in one go, but they are different types of videos each time. And they're, you know, just like Vin, I've got my notes ready, because you need those for reference, because you don't want to be umming and ahhing and thinking, you know, I'm sure I picked out a note before, but I can't remember what it was. So you've got those notes for reference, but still, it's still only 90% complete. I still am picking new things out normally, you know, because I might have tasted it 2 or 3 weeks before.
That's good. So you won a week. Have you missed a week?
I've probably missed a week or 2, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So I've for at least the last 4 years, I haven't missed a week.
That's amazing. And you got close recently, though, didn't you?
Yeah, and you know, there's always things that get in the way, but once I'm set up and I start recording, you sort of think, well, why did I put it off? It's fairly easy, because you get into that rhythm. But it's the rigmarole sometimes of setting it all up, and even though that doesn't take long, it's still an effort to, you know, blank your evening off. And in the summer, it's really difficult, because, you know, that I've got a curtain there that still lets some light in, and that can be annoying. And it can be quite warm as well. You've had that problem, Vin, and you feel like you're sweating on camera, and you're trying to reduce the noise so a fan can't be on it. It really is a challenge to sometimes do it. So when the summer comes, you know, you pick your days carefully, because you're doing it based on the time of the day and the weather, and you think, right, I will try and shoot as many as possible, because, you know, that's your opportunity.
That's the one thing I will say about my setup. I'm quite lucky to have a dedicated room. So it looks fairly big, and Mac will tell you, when he was here, he was surprised about how small this room actually is. Like, I can reach this just by reaching backwards. You know, that's the length of the room. This is against the wall, the camera, and that's the other wall. But it's permanent. It's permanently set up. My lights are set up. My cameras are set up. So really, I only have to have the inclination. I can come down here and press go. And that's probably the main reason why I can be as consistent as I am, because when I have difficulties, like technical difficulties, I get so annoyed about it that I throw a hissy fit and I don't want to do it anymore. Apart from when it's a live stream, because I have to. So it's, you know, if this was a normal recording night and I was having problems with my camera, I would just go, no, I'm done. What I'll do, instead of going around the normal order, because I know David does things even more differently than the rest of us. Tim, however, does something fairly similar with 1 a week, right?
1 a week. My record day is Tuesday, because I release Friday, so I do the exact same buffer, and gives you the day to do. I don't like to shoot and edit it the same day. I like to let it sit and then put it in and edit it, so that gives that time. So I definitely relate to the schedule, and it helps. I need the structure to fit it around everything else. So it's like I'm kind of already have it built up, unless something happens for that time to record. But I find that I'm a little jealous of Toby. I can't do like power through and pile them up. I find that they aren't as good. I tried it earlier in the process, and like it needs to breathe a little bit. Like I need to like step back and like to really get into the second one as much as the first. I kind of need like to get my head out of that first video and into the second one. I think it just seems to come out better. There's more energy around it if I let it sit and come back to. So that's not great for building up a reserve for when things happen, but it seems to help the videos as they come out.
And that's good. And you said you haven't missed a week yet.
Not this year. I certainly first in the beginning. I think I probably missed the week of Christmas last year, but I don't think I missed this year so far.
I mean, that's incredible.
Got to plan ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to reply to your comment. There are times when I sit in front of the camera and I end up doing more just because it feels natural and I'm on a roll. And sometimes I do less. I plan to do 2 or 3 and end up only doing 1 because, it just isn't working or, it just doesn't feel right. And I don't want to push content just for the sake of it. So, there are times when I get more done and sometimes when I get less done. But
yeah,
interestingly,
I had the same thing last night where I was recording and I literally, what would you normally do is do 2 reviews, one on a Monday, one on a Thursday and a sample Saturday. I did my 2 reviews because they're the ones I want to be enthusiastic about, just like Tim said. What I don't want to do is drink a sample Saturday, which could be 3, 4, 5 whiskies. Obviously, I only have sip on camera, and then do my reviews because I'm already, all over the place. Yeah. So I do my 2 reviews first, and then just last night it got to like 10 o'clock, and I just finished my second video, and I was like, I've still got to edit and get it out. And I just couldn't be bothered. So I was like, right, sample Saturday. No sample Saturday this week. Spoiler alert, everybody. But I couldn't be bothered last night. So, and it won't be next week either because I'm going on holiday. So I have done my buffer this time round for going on holiday next week. So I've got Thursday, Monday, Thursday already shot. But that took effort to make that happen. And that isn't typical for me at all. But what it does mean is that the following Monday, I won't have one because I will be recording that Monday. So yeah, it's... like Toby said, I'm always worrying, I'm always thinking about it, but I've kind of learned to not beat myself up too badly about the schedule anymore because, like Tim said earlier, it's changed on YouTube. The schedule was king back in the day because you needed to put your video out when you knew your audience was going to be online, but now the home screen takes care of that. So you can log on 3, 4, 5 days later, and if you really, really like a creator, their video will be there. If it does tend to kill our videos a little bit, but you are right. It doesn't really matter as much anymore.
Yeah, interestingly, Mark in the comments made an interesting point. He's looking forward to my advent calendar video, and obviously, when you do advent calendar videos 1 a day in December. Not only do you have the problem that you can't shoot 1 a day, it just is impractical because you want to make the most of each day. So I launch them in the morning. So if people are watching that day, they can drop in any time zone and pick that up. So you have to do multiples in advance. But also the set behind me effectively is dressed up for Christmas. So I have to make sure that all November's videos are shot before I start December's. So
yeah,
it's really difficult.
It's true.
So
I've
I will
got
probably
these whiskey hats this year to put on all of my bottles. So
I'll probably have all of November's videos shot, possibly before the end of October. So
fair play to you, man.
But again, there's certain timelines that do force you to push out more content, and put that in the buffer. And other times you can do it hand to mouth. You can do week at a time.
A perfect segue, that, Toby, because talking of hand to mouth, that's more what David does. Fair to say?
A little bit. I'm currently sitting on about 5 hours of footage from the last few months. But that's the difference. You guys are doing reviews and bottles and specifics, whereas mine's are more abstract, shall we say. And the latest video I just put out is like the first part of my trip up to Scotland that we did in the summer. But I just couldn't figure out. I just felt there wasn't enough content for what I wanted because I'm traveling with my family as well. And So then I overthink about it, and I could just put it out. I could just quickly edit it and put it out, but that's not why I do this. So I'm like, I want to do it in a way that satisfies me, and I ended up spending a good like 4 hours not editing, but creating individual cassette tapes for every Scottish whiskey region, plus Black Laws Rambles, plus Drams on the Run, ordering an old boombox, and then creating a 30-second segment to the start of the video that was I don't know what you would say, was inspired by Talking Heads concert film when David Byrne walks out with Psycho Killer, and that's how I started my last video. So it's very different, and that was the only way I felt like I could maybe get the creative juices going to then find the story within the story, and I did it. And now I have part 2 sitting, not edited, which I do need to start. And so it's that kind of process of that. But I know that what I've got in the back is the Whisky Show London. I've got the Whisky Fringe. Those videos have already went out and done. People have done great jobs of the show, but I've done those for the last couple of years. So I'm now thinking, right, well, spoiler alert, I'm going to the Glasgow Whisky Festival. So I'm going to maybe take content from that, and then I'm going to do a comparison, some sort of video involving all three into a thing, because I feel like that would be value rather than just doing the same thing every year. So my creative process is all over the place. I would love to create more. This weekend I was going to, and then I got sick. My wife was at Centre Parks with my little one and her friend, so I had the place to myself, and I was like, hours of content to be made, and I couldn't get off the couch. I was just like, no, it's fine. But again, not being hard on myself, because it's like, I can't, like, when I can't. And so my process is very different, but I have a very, very accommodating partner who lets me go places and do things. And when I do film, I'm at the bottom of my garden. So I'm not far away, but I am conscious with a little one and stuff. I can't be down here for nights on end and days on end. So it's a very fluid would be how I would put my creative video process.
Do you know what? You touched on a really good point there as well. And I think, especially for people like that are, creators that are in a family situation or whatnot, at least having somebody else in the house that they have to account for. For me, it was exceedingly important to kind of, on a normal week at least anyway, to keep whiskey activities down to 1 or 2 nights tops. So on a normal week, it would be a Monday for me, as I've said before. This week's a little bit different. Actually, I'm going a bit hard on it because I've got Monday night and then tonight, obviously doing this. And my whiskey club meet once a month on a Thursday, and that's this week as well. So I've tripled my allocation, unfortunately. But having a partner who is very understanding of that this is a real passion, not just a hobby, but a passion as well, I think is really important. And that must go doubly so for you, Toby, when you take up the dining room, right?
Yeah, but it makes it, actually, the biggest problem isn't my partner, it's my eldest son, because he's an online gamer and he makes so much noise that, even when you tell him, I'm doing a live stream or I'm recording, he's like, oh yeah, okay. And occasionally he'll be like, oh, I wanted to do this, that, or the other. But he has a short memory as well. So you tell him, and then 5 minutes later you start recording, you hear bashing and shouting, and yeah, so that can be a problem.
How about you, Tim? Have you got to account for your evenings in the week somehow, like portion it out?
Yeah, I have the luxury of like you have been. I have an basically a bedroom. That's an office. So in front of me, behind the camera is the desk and the workstation. So I can pull the blinds and not have to worry about the light, like Toby was talking about, and close the door. And I'm in this space, so I don't need to worry about specific times of day, which is nice. It's more, where does it fit into the routine? But that's the luxury you get when you can have just a total closed up space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I try to do mine all after I put the kid to bed, and then the evening's mine. So it doesn't tend to bother me with natural light, but I do have some nice blinds here so that I don't have to worry too much about that. So technically speaking, I could do any time, any day, for sure, which is handy for live streams and things like that. But yeah, for me, keeping that kind of like recording night, that's definitely one thing that keeps my channel going. Yeah. So actually, we accidentally talked about where we create our videos, being whether it a dedicated space somewhere within the house or out and about, which comes with its own challenges. But I guess we should probably touch on tech issues, which is obviously something we've talked about already a little bit today. And if this is the worst thing that happened, as I always say, if this is the worst thing that happened, then it's the best thing, right? Because I think about 5 minutes before we went live, I think I was probably stressing out quite a lot and thinking, how's this going to work? But yeah, how do you mitigate for tech issues? I'm going to go to David first this time, because you must have had a situation when you're recording out and about and you get home and it's just unusable.
Oh, the worst one. Let me go to my horror story. The one that still gives me a sinking feeling in my stomach. So I went to Kentucky in February. Me and my friend, who wasn't a big whiskey guy, and we went to a place called Glens Creek, which is in the Old Crow distillery, the shell of the Old Crow. And it was this fascinating guy, David. He invited us. I'd bought a ticket. For context, I'd bought a ticket for the tour, me and him, because on Reddit, people were like, if you're going to Castle and Key or Buffalo Trace, you have to go here. It's really like really top draw craft whiskey. So in the comment buying a ticket, I said, do you mind? Is it okay to video? If not, fine, but just, it's a small setup. And he, off the back of that, found the channel, found the old videos, the old videos. And I think he liked my kind of get up and go approach, and the fact that I said Hudson Rye was the worst rye I've ever tasted. And it was also the first rye I'd ever tasted.
I love that rye.
And he came back to me and was like, I'll give you some good whiskey. And we're like, oh great. So we went not expecting anything. And what ended up happening was like an hour and a half tasting, ended up being 4-5 hours. He took his round everywhere. He showed us, he gave us the good stuff. Just a fascinating time. And he sat down with me for like this 1-to-1, just off the cuff, this interview. And his stories were fascinating. He was a guy that was like a Toyota exec consultant about workforce and ways of working and all this. And he was also a moonshiner in his youth. And that's how he became this, just fascinating. So I've set it all up. But bear in mind, I'm a good few in from the tour and stuff. So I set up the mic, the wireless mics, and everything. Yeah, video, got it, brilliant, in the can. Continue the rest of the trip. I come home and it's about a week in. I'm like, right, let's get that footage out. And there's no audio. There's no audio. And I'm like,
not even scratch.
And it was just like, and I was like, I know what's happened, because it happened before and I'd caught it. The DJI, a little wireless receiver on top, and the wire that goes into the camera, I don't think it was fully pushed in. It was halfway in.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh, and I message, this is like midnight. I messaged my mate, John Paul, and he's like, no. Like, that's how he wrote back, no. Like, he knew how important this was. And then that's me clicking on the, like, just the import files. So I pull it in, I'm like, fine, okay, I'm going to have to message David and tell him what's happened. I'm going to look like an idiot, and I'm going to have to do a voiceover and explain. And I'm just going to have to deal with it. Because the rest of the tour and all that I videoed, audio was fine. It was just when I pulled the two mics out and tried to do that. And when I put it in Premiere Pro, I discovered that the DJI mic has 2 channels. And amazingly, it had a backup. And I have never felt, I even think about it now, the wave of relief, because that was a once in a like it's never happening again for me. And so I saved it, and no one will know, like, that stress. And like, I woke up my wife when I thought there was no audio, really crying. And then I woke up my wife when I found the audio, and she's like, I don't care. So since then, I'm always, it's that kind of like 1 is none, 2 is 1, like back up, check, recheck. I over-engineer everything. I don't want to ever blame the equipment. That's kind of, I'm like, okay, so I'll check everything and I'll do everything, and there'll still be issues. There's always tech issues. But yeah, that for me. So then now out and about and stuff, I'm trying to minimize the setup as much as possible, but try and keep the quality high. And my wife got me the wee DJI Pocket free, which is amazing. But the problem with that is it's only got one mic. It doesn't have a boom mic.
Yeah.
So then you're trying to. So that's what I found at the Whisky show. So again, everything's just for me. It's always test and learn and do it. But the main thing is, I think I want perfect, and I think all the viewers and that are just happy to watch and deal with whatever you put out. And I need to remind myself that sometimes.
It's funny to say, like, so as mentioned earlier, tech issues can really irritate me. And early on in, you use your phone, you use a different microphone, whatever, and you have to combine audio. I discovered that I have to use tech to make it simple. So I bought this Sony ZV-1, which is like designed for vloggers, basically. It's like the cheapest camera you can get that has a mic input. And this thing, it just does everything, for me in a really basic way. And that's just exactly what I need. And someone keeps saying to me, why don't I use that as my webcam for like live streams? Because I'm just using a normal webcam for this. And I can do that, but it involves changing some settings. And I'm so terrified of upsetting the apple cart.
Exactly right.
That I don't want to, I don't want to mess around with that. So I'm just like, no, that is set up how I like it set up. I do not want to change anything, because if I forget to change something, I had one time when I went to a distillery and I left. It has this thing on it called product showcase, where, for viewers that don't know, if you've got a normal camera, it usually tracks eyes, and the focus follows eyes. Where when you hold something up to the screen like this, it will still focus on my eyes rather than the thing usually. But this camera does a product showcase where it just finds the nearest thing and focuses on that no matter what I'm doing, which I love that. But if you leave it on, it turns off image stabilization because it assumes you're on a tripod. So if you're out and about doing a David style whiskey, it's like this, like, Parkinson's coming out, and I just completely ruined an entire distillery tour video because of it. Toby, tech issues?
Yeah, so interestingly, you talking about using that camera instead of a webcam. Obviously, I'm using my main camera that I shoot my video as my webcam, because my webcam looks like, you're shooting it with a potato. So, I'd rather have decent quality and potentially some tech issues that I have to iron out, than me look like, I'm under the sea. But the only tech issues I've had was when my mic decided to fail, and it just had like crackling constantly. And, when I'm plugging it into the camera and shooting it, I'm not listening to that audio. All I'm doing is checking the levels, because it works every time you plug it in. You check the levels, they look okay, and then you record, and you don't hear the audio until afterwards. And when you've got a microphone plugged in, you don't get any other audio. The camera itself doesn't record its audio because the mic that you plugged in takes over. So I had that once where that was unusable. And I had another issue where the microphone didn't like the fact that the camera was plugged into the mains, and there was a constant hum. So it took me, about a week of working out how to get rid of the hum. So no major tech issues, but on my early videos, you'll see that the focus hunts because I was using my phone, and I didn't lock the focus, and it would just constantly, try to focus on whatever was moving. So even if your hand sort of moved, it would try to focus instantly on anything that was closer to the camera.
Right.
But yeah, other than that, I think I've sort of kept it easy and only upgraded one thing at a time. And I haven't used it unless I felt confident that each upgrade is, I'm familiar with what it does and how it works.
That's a really good point about upgrades, because for me, like, software tends to, like, I'm a bit of a nightmare for leaving my computer on, and leaving Chrome updates until the last minute, and leaving Mac updates till the last minute. I really hate updating things because I like it when things work. I like it when things work as they're meant to work. And I'm always terrified of updating my OS because it just sends out every other app going when you update it. So I've got probably 2 updates left to do, which is probably why the audio isn't working now, because that the software is already mitigated for the new OS, and I just haven't upgraded. I don't know, but Tim, how about you? I mean, you look pretty polished on your videos, so.
Well, thank you. It is a lot of work. I have had every tech. When I started out figuring this out, I had every tech problem. I had there's no sound. I had oops, it's out of focus the entire time, and I've loaded video that I shot on the phone and tried to put in with the camera video, and it won't match. And the software's freaking out and all that type of stuff. So I shoot my video and I don't edit the same day, but I immediately transfer everything into the computer and then fire it up and make sure everything's in focus and I've got sound. If I don't move the bottle, I don't move the glass, I don't move anything because I've had to reshoot before. Thankfully, that got less frequent with experience, but just like you're talking about, Vin, I don't want to change any variables, nothing, because then I'm going to have to troubleshoot it when it doesn't work the same. So keep everything working exactly how it is and wait 2-3 months to do a Mac update or a Final Cut update, because who knows what type of bugs are in there. So exactly the same. But yeah, if I had all that stuff and had to kind of figure out what went wrong and how not to step in that again. And I do everything in here. I've never done a video in the field before, and I'd like to do some of that in the future. I think that's great stuff. That, you know, like David does, and a lot of people do. It's like you have so much less control, and everything is not exactly the same. So it's much more danger.
You also have to carry all this gear that you end up not using,
right?
And you're like, just in case, maybe I'll set this tripod up and I'll set this angle up and I'll do this out and about and that. And then you realize I don't have time. I can't get about. But I think I'm the opposite to a couple of you guys. I love the tech side. Like, I love over engineering everything. I've started doing live streams purely just because on a Saturday night, my wife's in bed, the little one's in bed, and I'm like, well, I may as well do something. I could edit the videos that I'm meant to edit, but I'm like, oh, I can live stream. And I discovered that with the Mac, my iPhone instantly connects as a camera in the software I use. So then I can have a 2-cam setup. So I was like, right, I can do a 2-cam. Okay, what would I do that with? So then I did, in the last live stream, I did a live horse race to pick the dram using that. And then I've got the little stream deck to press the buttons to activate things. And it's my friends who were around on Friday just looked at the setup and were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, it's great fun. This is like part of the hobby. And then I can always just say, oh, I need it because I need it for the content. I need to make videos.
I just wish I was more inclined to deal with all of that stuff. You know, like one of the problems today, there's a software that we like to use called StreamYard, which costs money and is super smooth and creates a nice result. I'm too cheap to pay for that. So I've had to learn this OBS, and sometimes that bites me in the ass because I'm not a tech guy, and it's all very complicated, very complicated. But some people just love it. They love getting into those troubleshooting, and I'm just like, I want to sit down, work.
I'm with you on the work part, but also when I can get it all working, like I don't know if any of you have got a Mac and an iPad. I discovered, like, amazingly, wirelessly, the iPad connects to the MacBook and it becomes a second screen, like in real time. And I was like, and then I looked it up, and that's been about for about 5 years. But I'm like, oh my god, that means I could put chat on that while the laptop's there, and like, so I love tinkering and doing all that stuff. It kind of keeps me busy.
You see, I don't mind shooting longer content, but I'm not as good at shooting longer content because once the camera starts moving, it's a lot harder to make it, you know, as professional from my perspective. I know what I want to do, but you start shooting it never looks the way you want. But it's the amount of extra editing. You know, I dread editing something that's 20-30 minutes, you know, where you've got lots of content. A 20 to 30 minute whiskey video in a studio is completely different from something where you've got, you know, tons of B-roll, you've got multiple people that you know you're featuring and stuff. I've done holiday videos and completed them like 5 or 6 years later, just because it dreads me with fear trying to cut down the content into something that not only I would watch, but potentially other people would.
Yeah, I started making videos at like good maybe 20 years ago, and so I've always kind of like it's always been like I did it for my friend's band on tour and stuff like that. So there was like a kind of travel vloggy type approach before I did it. So for me, going out and about with a camera didn't feel as alien from a whiskey point of view. Whereas for me, sitting down in here and just what you guys doing content is more alien to me. But the editing part, I completely agree. You have to enjoy the edit, but you also have to. I'm editing as I'm shooting, so to speak. When I'm out, I'm having to plan. So when I went to the States, the first couple of videos you'll notice are really like shots and because I storyboarded it all and I lay out the shot list. And I thought, right, I'll do at the end of day 2, I'll write out the next shot list. No, I was hungover the rest of the time. And you see a noticeable change in the quality of the video. Like I noticed it, but maybe I'm being harsh on myself. But that edit in mind of, and that's what I struggled with this latest video. I thought I was getting enough content, but I was also looking after my daughter, and we were also driving, and my wife, and so then I end up spending time in creating stupid not stupid, but spending a lot of time on small details that maybe I could just get over. And it's that balance of that whole saying of like, just get it done. Instead of don't aim for perfect, just get it done. So it's finding a middle ground where I'm like, oh, but I don't want to put out something that, to your point, Toby, people
that's
watching.
Exactly. That's exactly what I struggle with. You've got the content, but you're not happy with, what you're potentially putting out. And it's that struggle, do I cut it down to something much cleaner and easier to manage, or do I put out the content I intended to, but spend so much longer trying to get it perfect?
And I think that's the balance I have, because I think my audience and people that find my videos know that when they come, right, he's taking his time. There's something coming. I try to do a schedule, but my life doesn't allow it. But also the content sometimes doesn't allow it. So I'm just like, well, I'd rather put out something worthwhile that I've enjoyed making, and that I'm like, okay, I'm happy to say I've done that, than put out something for the sake of just getting a video out for the algorithm. And I tried doing that, and I tried at the start of the month for Instagram doing reels, and I was like, I'm going to do a video a day for all of October. I did 3 because I was like, this just isn't for me. I'm just not a short form. I'm not that. I'm doing it for the sake of doing it. And by the 3rd one, I was like, there's no more.
Let me give you a top tip then, because I don't know if you've noticed on Instagram, I've been doing a bit more reels. What I do is I cut up my my whiskey in, whiskey out video, because it's the only one that really lends itself to it well. But I use a piece of software called Opus.Pro, and it's AI generated. But basically, you upload the video to it, and it takes the transcript and it works out where the natural breaks are and chops it up into 1-minute videos that you can then edit around. You can play around with the subtitles, but it does all that for you. And then you just check it, see if it's all right, download it, upload it straight to Instagram. That's what I've been doing recently.
I will say, my accent and anything voice recognition.
Fair.
Adobe Premiere and me, I do, when I do you'll find that I put subtitles in occasionally. But if I do, then it's going to be, it'll recognize it and it'll do all the transcript, and then it's another hour edit. And then otherwise I need to just put on a fake accent. So I'm just like, I've tried bits, but I will definitely give that a shot as well. But again, it's just, there's a little tech issue when it comes. Don't even talk to me about Siri. Like,
can we hear your fake accent, David?
I can do. I used to be a teacher in South Korea, believe it or not, so I can do my teacher David voice. Oh. Hi Tim, how are you? Are you having a really nice day today? Yeah, it's all up here on the shoulders, and we talk like that. And don't drink too much whiskey like your dad. Like, not that I say that to kids, but whereas my accent's my normal accent lives here. This is where I'm
chest voice.
I'm in the middle ground. I go home and I get called posh. So it's what happens.
Okay, so one of the other things I wanted to talk about, which lends itself to all of the other things we've spoke about so far, is burnout, which is something that I imagine all of us have been through at some point. But I think we're all in a bit of a situation where we've dealt with that over the years, and now we've reached a sort of cadence. But for me, I mean, I reach burnout when it comes to what I call the summer lull, which hopefully you've all experienced now at least once. I know Toby especially has been around the annual seasons a few times. But what tends to happen in YouTube space, in case anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, is that during the summer, a lot of the non-core fans, like you guys watching now, they'll go and do something else. You know, they'll drink something else, drink gin or whatever, and they'll leave whiskey alone. So I see anyway, what we call a sawtooth. So I see a peak at Christmas, summer lull, peak at Christmas, summer lull, year on year. And the first time it happened, it almost stopped my channel genuinely, because the numbers went from steadily growing to just nothing, dead for weeks and weeks and months on end. You know, I would say a good May it starts happening, and then until October, about now, you know, beginning of October. So that first time I was just like, you know, that's my channel killed. And then obviously Christmas came around and I was like, oh, okay, that's a thing. And now I know it happens. I just sort of ignore it and power through. People like Roy take a whole month off in summer, mainly so that he can go on holiday, I guess. But yeah, for me, I mean, I mitigate from it by simply just doing whatever I want to do. If I can't record that week, I just forgive myself for it. And that's the only way I can deal with it. And I try not to promise people things too much as well. Like I'll suggest when I do a day, if somebody says, when can I get this video out? I'll say, I'll probably get it done by this. I've never, ever taken anybody's say so, get it out by this date kind of thing. Tim, how about you? Have you experienced burnout?
Yes. No, sometimes we get busy and sometimes there's a lot going on, and sometimes you don't feel like recording on Tuesday and going through all the runway that it takes to get the video out on, for me, Friday. I find that the cure for burnout is just finding a video that you're excited about, like a cool idea. And I find that if I've, like Toby was talking about having a list of videos, like I have a little notepad page where I have ideas that I just keep a running tally that I pick from, and if I have 2 or 3 good ones, I'm not going to feel burnout, because I'm going to that's what we're doing it for, right? I mean, it's bringing something new, something special. You got a take on a whiskey, or just a cool concept for an idea or something like that. It's when you're like, I haven't really been in that headspace for the last week or so, and what I have on the shelf, and okay, let me get that open so I can get that ready for Friday. And that's when I kind of feel it. So I think the cure is obviously the whole thing we're talking about is the balance, but just find a way to plug back into the excitement of why we do it, because that always recharges me. And I'm like, I'll make time. If I've got a good auto, I got a good idea for a video, I'm going to make time and get that out and share it with people, because I'll be excited about it.
Mm. No, that's good. I think that's a really sort of like healthy way to be about it, because it could be so easy to be really obsessed with getting the content out, and then worse, looking at the numbers directly after for the first 24 hours or whatever, looking at the comments, or that horrible figure that we get now, which is like the out of 10. I hate it. I don't know how you guys do it, but like
you hate it unless it's number 1 and the fireworks go off and you love it.
Yeah, like literally, I put the video out with Mac. When was it? Yesterday, and that's been hovering at 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. And we did 2 21-year-old Japanese whiskies with Mac and me in the same room. And I'm sitting there thinking, what do people want, man? How can that possibly be underviewed? But people click what they want to click.
Exactly. And I found that a lot of times the bottle that I'm really excited about isn't the one that is the hit on. I mean, you've talked before about how many videos you have, and here you have 21-year-old Japanese whiskey. When I've gotten to milestones like 1,000 subs, 2,000 subs, I've pulled down, bottle and like treasure that got back from Scotland. It's like a, distiller exclusive or single cap. And I open it up and I'm going, oh, I'm sharing this with you guys to celebrate this. And they always bomb. they're always 9 or 10. Nobody cares. They don't know what those are, but I was excited about it, and I'll make it up later. I'll do a different video. So I try not to be reactive to it like you're talking about, of just being like obsessed over it, because I don't know. I mean, we could change it, I guess. We could all just be Johnny Walker channels, but I don't think that's gonna keep us motivated to keep working on it.
Definitely. Toby, Burnout?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I get burnout, but you get really disheartened to the point that you think, why am I doing this? The numbers don't make sense. Am I doing it just for the sake of doing it now? But then I think that often comes along when you're passionate about a particular brand, but generally the interwebs don't agree. I'm producing my content for the people that appreciate whiskey, whereas YouTube has lots of viewers, who just like whiskey. They like whiskey or whiskey flavored drinks. So, I do realize that sometimes my content caters for the mass market, and that's what makes it popular sometimes. And other times I'm catering for stuff that is quite niche. So, I shouldn't be surprised when I see, very small views. But, I do sometimes jump on the bandwagon. I've done it before. I review a bottle because, it was an offer and think, oh, this is, worth putting out there because it's cheap at the moment. And then all of a sudden it gets lots of hits. So you think, well, maybe I'll try other bottles from the same brand. And, they are successful. But then you think, well, actually, I prefer reviewing the bottles that I want to review. And I've bought this just to try and get views. And, it's difficult. But I wouldn't say I get burnout, but you get very disheartened with YouTube as a whole, because although you are doing it because you enjoy it, you sometimes are doing it for the numbers, because the numbers dictate what you do and why you do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, for me, I always try to strike a balance with what I think people are going to watch. I mean, I always cover what I want to watch, but yeah, I am guilty of including a Johnny Walker in here and there. And I bought that Beyonce whiskey not because I thought it was going to be good, because I thought people might be interested in what I think about it. And that was true. But you can never really know how well they're going to do, I don't think.
No, I don't. I think that's one of the things that's hard for me, because I make this content, and like the Whiskey Show being a prime example. I know like a couple other guys, Jeff and stuff's done one as well. And been surprised that it's not quite taken off the way you would expect, because like the Whiskey Show London, it's a massive event, it's got all the best whiskies and you're trying all this amazing stuff, and yet the views on those videos just don't. I don't know if it's people don't like watching them because you have to be there to experience it, or how you do it. I've stopped. I say I've stopped. I still have a peek at the numbers, but when I put stuff out, I'm really surprised at what goes big, like for me, actually does well over time. And I just concentrate on, what, if anybody stumbles across this video, will they be entertained? Will they enjoy it? And am I happy with it? And that's my barometer. And I don't make any money off this. I got very close with my hours viewed, and then life got in the way with the baby and stuff. And for anybody that doesn't know how monetization works, you need 1,000 subscribers minimum, but then you need watch hours, and you need 4,000 watch hours. And you're like, okay, I've got 4,000. Or for me, I was at 3,800, and then it ticks every day. It's a 365-day rolling clock. If you don't keep churning those hours out, then your hours dwindle down. So I think I'm down to like 1,600 now because of the enforced absence for a while. And I'm just like, okay, cool. Well, I got close. Well, Icarus story. Got close to the sun. Came back down. I'm in a niche content channel. I'm not going to sweat it. If people watch my videos, fantastic. I'm still going to keep putting them out. And then we all have people that watch our videos and comment on every video and give encouragement and feedback. And every now and again, there's that little lull, like you said, maybe in the summer, or maybe a moment where you think, why am I even bothering? And out of nowhere, you'll get a really positive comment. I got an amazing email from someone in the States, out the blue, never spoken to before, just saying they really enjoyed the channel and the content, and you go, right, okay, someone watches. You can see that people are watching, but someone cares, so I'm going to keep it going. And that's why I think there was a really good question in the comments. Don't know if you've seen it, Vin, from Andrew. Like, why did we get into being whiskey YouTuber? Like, what was the inspiration? Well, we were like, we obviously want to make videos, but the inspiration is like the kind of community and the back and forward. I think a lot of the time, I don't think if no one was watching this, would we continue? Probably not, because it would be a bit of a just shoveling money into a black hole. But would I stop if like only 2 people watched? No, I'd still keep making it as long as someone was there bouncing it off.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that I heard was like, so at the moment we've got 40 people watching, which, you know, for me that's great, but compared to some, comparison is the thief of joy, by the way, but compared to some, that could be low numbers. My wife, she regularly delivers talks to auditoriums, and she, you know, these could seat hundreds of people, but sometimes there'll be 5 people in there. So she was saying, imagine those 40 people were actually in front of you, filling a room, because that would fill a room, you know. And that's a new way of thinking about it. And you are right. I mean, even when you get like 100-200 views, and you're sitting there thinking, I mean, for me, I'm lucky enough to have sort of 15,000 subscribers. You can be guilty of wondering where the other, you know, 14,800 people are. But that, like I said earlier, that's not the psychology of YouTube. The psychology of YouTube is people will watch your video if they want to, and they won't if they don't, because that's the nature of the beast. You know, you can do what you want, you can share videos on social and whatnot, but ultimately it's the click, you know, the decision to go, maybe I'll watch that later, or, you know, I mean, I put out, I mean, so much content at the moment that hardly anybody could watch all of that. You know, even me on my second channel watching my own content to make sure it works. You know, I can't keep up with my own output, so I don't expect people to watch everything. That's not the point of my channel, because it's more of a resource. But yeah, I didn't really ask you about Burnout, David, because you obviously it's different, because if you don't put a video out, you don't put a video out. But your Burnout must come from a different point of view, as in, like, can I be bothered to shoot? Can I be bothered to edit?
It's life and it's work. We all have jobs, and my job's quite a stressful job at the best of times. I have a 15-month-old daughter. I have a wife. I have a dog. I have a house to look after. I have everything going on. And so for me to go out and shoot, like, well, that's a commitment away from all that. So then that's difficult. So like going up to Glasgow, I'm taking a holiday to go up to Glasgow to shoot up there. I went to Kentucky. I took holiday for that. When we went up on the road trip, I diverted into a few distilleries with the family and stuff like that. So everything is that, and it would make my life a lot easier just to come down here and shoot a video of whiskey. I've got loads of whiskey, and I have contemplated it, and I think that's why I started doing the live streams, because I'm like, well, you know what, I can taste the whiskey on a live stream. And then it's sociable. I've got someone to talk to with it and stuff like that. And I'm not taking away from what the core of the channel is, which is kind of whiskey community out and about and rambles and stuff. But I think for me, the biggest disheartening thing, the burnout, comes not from the shooting and the editing, which I love doing. And maybe I shouldn't, it's like the chip on my shoulder. It's the people that are gaming the system. And I'm not going to say any names, but we all know where they are buying subscribers or they're buying Instagram follows, and they're not being subtle about it. They're brazen, because we are in a niche. We are in a big niche. And I always find it funny when I go on Instagram and I see people with 95,000 followers, or I go on YouTube and I see people with 1.1 million. And I'm like, I've never seen any of your videos. And I'd like to think I'm quite active in the whiskey YouTube space. And I'm not going to name anybody of that, but what's then disheartening is they're rewarded for it. And it becomes a numbers game. And we all know how to check. And anyone that wants to check can check. There's very simple tools where you can check that. Is this real? Why do they all of a sudden get 30,000 followers or 400,000 subscribers in 3 days when they never put anything out? And then you kind of think to yourself, why am I being a mug? Why am I sitting here dedicating all this time? And then we spoke about it in Toby, and that, like, none of this makes any sense. And it is so frustrating. And you want to kind of burn it all down. You want to call it out, but then you have to step back and go, look, we're better than that. We're above it. And it's that dignified approach. That's where my burnout comes from. As you can see, it really riles me. It really riles me. But I think it also motivates me at the same time to keep going.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things I learned early on, because I've had the temptation to try and unnaturally grow, but I've always avoided it because that slow, plodding, natural growth is the healthiest growth. Obviously, every now and again, you might get something that goes quote unquote viral. You know, I was lucky enough to have one video years and years ago now that did that, and that did wonders for my channel, definitely. But yeah, I think chasing that is unhealthy for people like us that aren't full-time producers. You know, if you are a full-time producer, if I ever get to make this full-time, then absolutely. I mean, you'll notice that I'll probably be out and about, you know, speaking to various people, blah blah blah. The production will go up, but you make the content that you're capable of making, right? You know, if I had to spend, like, Jeff is probably one of my favorite examples, bless him. He takes like 15 hours, 20 hours to produce a video because of all the edits he has to do. If I had to do that to keep my head afloat, my channel wouldn't exist, because I just couldn't be bothered. If I can't keep it to 1 or 2 nights a week, I just would not do it. Definitely would not do it. So yeah, you have to make the content that you're capable of making, no matter what you go on about. I guess the last thing, what time are we on? Yeah, one final topic, a little bit different, is I've determined it as deciding how reachable to be. Now, for me, that comes through this device here, where things like Instagram, YouTube comments, blah blah blah, that can all just be there and get access to me immediately. So what I do, I don't get notifications from my YouTube comments anymore, because I check that app so often I don't need to. However, I shouldn't say this too loudly, but if you DM me on Instagram, you basically have instant access to me. You know, I'll see it. I'll see the notification at least. Usually what I'll do is, if I can't respond to it there and then, I'll usually swipe it off, because then it will stay in the app still when I next log onto it. But I'll see the notification almost immediately. And I'm not sure how healthy that is, but yeah, I'm probably a little bit too reachable. Who hasn't spoken for a while? Tim, I'll go to you, Tim, first. How do you find about reachability?
Early on in the process, I made a choice to put the bulk of my energy into the videos and the channel, and not chase, you know, the socials and the Instagram. So I have it, you know, I have an Instagram account. It does a lot of just sort of, here's a reel that's a clip from this week's video, but sometimes something, you know, whiskey related that I'll do a post on. I don't have most of the apps installed. You have to have the Instagram, but I don't have the YouTube app installed, and I have the notifications set to alert me, because I wanted to sort of silo it off so that I'm ready and in that space. I will sit down, open it up, and just plow through the comments. So sometimes it's a couple days before I respond to a comment, but I'll go through it. I'll always cycle back, and I'll go through Instagram comments when I'm in to do a post or something, because if I'm getting that pinging all the time in my phone, while I'm trying to do other stuff where I'm completely outside the YouTube space, I'm going to be constantly kind of being pulled back into it. So I made the choice pretty early to say, I want to focus on the videos. This stuff is supplemental. It's important. It's part of, you know, promoting, getting out there, but I'm going to come and sit down and do this when I'm in the place to do it. And that has worked for me so far. And I think that's helped me sort of stave off that type of burnout of it's coming at me from all sides.
No, I think it's very healthy. I need to start doing something like that for sure. I'm lucky enough to have a fairly relaxed working environment, so I can respond to certain things. But yeah, like if I catch out the corner of my eye like a really negative comment or something like that, that'll piss me off all day. So I probably should not read it at the start of the day. How about you, Toby? I think you're fairly reachable. I've always not struggled to reach you.
I use all of the mainstream socials. I've got my contact details, obviously, on some of them. And apart from spam emails that you get sometimes from companies that either don't exist or they're pretending they're a company, if it's quite a simple question, then I'll normally answer it quite quickly, maybe sometimes instantly. But if they're asking something a lot more detailed, then I'll put it off for a day or two just while I think about it, because I always want to give the most sort of professional response possible. So that takes time, and you just, I don't know, you want to try to, well, I suppose I'm trying to build a brand, and if you're trying to build a brand around your identity, on socials, then you can't just reply with 1 or 2 word answers just because a message comes in. But fortunately, I don't get a large number of messages, so I can give them the time that they deserve. And if they come in first thing in the morning when I wake up, I could probably answer them before I brush my teeth, so it's not a problem. But if I was getting inundated with messages, then I might have to sort of think about how I manage them and allocating certain times during the day, just like you do at work. Sometimes I'll answer emails straight away to certain people, and other times I'll make them wait, because being available straight away isn't always the best response.
No, again, I think that's really a good way of thinking about it, and that's why I cancelled my YouTube notifications, because they were getting too much. And that's, I'm just trying to decide which ones. Like a good example, I've had like a LinkedIn DM while I've been on the stream, and I've seen the notification, and I shouldn't have even looked at my phone. I should have just turned it around. But that's the world we're in, right? David, how about you?
I work in digital as a job. I'm always online. I joke to people I am the internet, because my wife will ask me something. The funniest one was I said to her a couple of months ago, I was like, by the way, Brat Summer. And she was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, just wait. And then a month later, she was like, what's Brat Summer? And I was like, okay, this is what's trending online. So I'm easily available. I reply to people a bit like Toby as quick as I can, if it's a simple ask or whatever, because at the end of the day, they've taken the time to reach out, and I think it's a value exchange. Like, no one has to do that. I am not at a scale where I get too many messages or emails, but I do get emails, I get messages, I get people reaching out. Tim, that's in the chat, reached out and wanted to buy one of my t-shirts out the blue, and was like, there's something wrong with the shipping. And I was like, yep, leave it with me. And then it was me trying to figure out how to work Shopify and sort stuff out. But it's stuff like that where I'm just like, look, it costs nothing to be nice. And I think it's really appreciative. I've never, probably just laid a road for my back here, but never had hateful comments, never had anything. I don't think I've ever given. I don't give, like you guys, I don't give, my opinions are quite under the radar around everything else going on, whereas you guys are reviewing. So then you get that black or white where people can't understand it. It's all subjective. So I don't get that. So thankfully, hopefully long may that continue. And I think that would sour my experience if it did happen. But no, I think from a reachability point of view, I've got an email, I've got YouTube, I've got Instagram. If people want to get a hold of me, they can get a hold of me. I make myself available. I've had it funny where I've had my first ever, like, well, I've had twice now, and both times it's kind of weirded me out a wee bit where people have said, "Oh, drinks whiskey," and I've just been kind of like, "Oh my, like, hi." One time on my first date night since the baby in Glasgow, and I was like, "This shouldn't be happening." Even my wife was like that. But that was nice. It was nice, but at the same time weird, because I've never had that. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure Vin, you've had it at shows and stuff, and it's just that kind of like, wow, I am putting myself out there, so I kind of forget the people that do that. And so up to now, I've never said my name really up until recently. It's always just been Drinks Whiskey. And then I was like, I met Marcos, the North Face rep. So this is a good example of being reachable. Before Marcos, who works at North Face now, before that Glengoyne, before he did that, he didn't work in the industry, and he followed me on Instagram, and we were messaging. Like, and he would go to places in Glasgow and stuff, and we built a relationship through that. And then I met him in Edinburgh, and as I met him off the train, he was like, "I don't actually know your name." I was like, "It's Mr. Drinks Whiskey." So I think it's just that being that accessible. Like, we're all just normal people trying to have a bit of fun and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's funny you should say it as well, because obviously I've been going to whiskey festivals for years, mostly local ones. I don't really like London; it's a bit too big for me. So I go to the Birmingham ones, and I've one or two people might come up and say, "Oh, I really enjoy your videos," blah blah blah. So it's never really been a thing for me until I went to Glasgow last year, and I barely got 4-5 drams the whole session because people just came out of nowhere. Some people having a chat, some people just walking past going, "Love your videos," and off they went. But I think it was because a large collective of YouTubers went. That's the first time I met Ralphie, for instance. So I think a lot of the people that watch us also went because it draws everybody from all over the world pretty much to come to that festival. And that was a bit mind-blowing for me because I'd never really experienced that before. So I'm certainly not out on the street. Although there was one guy where I work who said that he had watched my videos before. Like, he came up to me and was like, "I recognize you from this," and I was like, I don't know, someone's having me on there. Someone's told you to say that, I'm sure. So I've never really proved that or not, but that was weird.
I was going to say, how'd that work? So somebody who I know said, "Oh, I saw one of your videos on YouTube."
Is that not
They didn't
the
make a
worst
big
thing you
deal
would hear at
out
work?
of it. Yeah, was a bit weird.
Yeah.
I had a colleague in the comments tonight.
Oh, nice. Sort of nice.
It's fine. He likes whiskey. He does his favourite's Killila, so I was like, I'll let you off.
Yeah, I think with like the live streams as well. Like, I mean, I try to keep it all set. Obviously, you can't stop people from finding you and watching you, and it's great that. But luckily, it doesn't tend to bleed over. But the last thing I'd want is, like, tomorrow, for instance, is for anyone to be like, "Oh, a bit tired today because you were live streaming late, were you?" So that won't happen today because we're going to be winding up soon. But it's, yeah, that bleed between kind of literally work and whiskey is. I try to keep it as separate as possible. I've even got 2 LinkedIn accounts. Did I ask you, Tim, about reachability? I did. You were first, weren't you? Yeah. Okay. Now, I think probably we're about an hour and a half. Might be a good opportunity to wind it down. I haven't got any more talking points, but if any of you want to say anything more about the topics tonight, or if you want to do a quick sign off, that's also fine. Because I know, especially Tim, this is your first time on here. Oh, did we lose you?
You're muted.
Can't hear you, Tim.
Yeah, you're muted.
Last minute tech issues.
No, nothing.
No.
I'll fill the silence from now. I think if anybody watching wants to do this, just do it. It's really simple to do now. There's no excuses. If you want to do it, you can literally get a phone tripod, set up, and just upload videos. I think some of my favorite YouTube channels are the ones that don't get a ton of views, but like Gav's Drams. Mm-hmm. Gav's Drams is a phenomenal channel, and he's upgraded his setup as time has went on. But it's really just Gav sitting, drinking whiskey, and telling you what he thinks. And that's at the heart of it is WhiskyTube. That's what it should be, and that's what Ralphie's was. That's what Roy was for a point, and then he changed his content and stuff like that. So if you ever want to do it, reach out to any of us. Everybody's willing to share. I think that's the nice thing as well. No one's a closed shop as far as I'm aware. Everybody I've spoken to has been really super helpful. Like, Vin helped me. I ended up getting a MacBook because I was like, I don't know what to get. I want to edit on the couch, and had a conversation with Vin about it. And he was working off a Mac. And he's like, "Yep, you can still do it." Blah blah blah. But all of that, I think it's just a really approachable. I think you see these roundtables and the different people that come on month in, month out. Everybody contributes and everybody wants to help each other grow. So if you want to do it, do it. Don't feel you need to reinvent the wheel either. Just do whatever you fancy.
No, I completely agree. It's I always say to people that I've got a friend at work who's into jewelry actually, and he's thinking about making a channel, and he's been coming to me for a little bit of advice, and he keeps saying things to me. Oh, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna do this to get better before I start. I'm just gonna do this before I get better before I start. I'm like, nah, just start, make some shit videos and build from there, because I don't know a channel out there that can honestly hand on heart say that their first video is as good as their most recent video. None of them, because that's not the point of YouTube. The point of YouTube is to, unless you've got the money and the production crew and all that lot, which none of us have got, because that was the original point of YouTube, right? Wasn't it? It was your life, your thing, and it's kind of been blown out of proportion a little bit with huge companies and rich people managing to push it through. But yeah, that's the big one. It's just start. I mean, you'll have to deal with everything we've been talking about today. Is the truth. You'll have to deal with tech issues. You'll have to deal with bad comments. You'll have to deal with improvements and being sick. There was a great channel, I've forgotten what it was called now, but the guy was called Max. He had a beard. Toby will remember him probably. And he was putting out daily content every day, new video every day for a good month. And then out of nowhere, he just got ill or had burnout or whatever and just never came back. And that was him done. But if he'd have spread those videos out one a week, he'd have had nearly a whole year's worth of content and would have had the time to come back to it. And it's a real shame, because we've seen lots of channels come and go through various reasons, whatever. Mostly COVID brought a lot of new people on. But yeah, to build on David's point, especially like Discord, if you're not a member of Discord, please do join it. Every YouTuber, large or small, is welcome there into our little kind of private area. And we do collaborate on a lot of things. We talk on everything, right?
Especially the comments.
yeah. We have a bit of therapy about comments, which I won't go too much into. But yeah, if you've ever posted a negative comment on one of our videos, then we've talked about it probably.
I think we were saying about the channels that come and go. I missed it, but there was a channel that came gunning for WhiskyTube that was going to be the alternative to WhiskyTube and show how whiskey was. And where are they? They realised that actually this is quite a hard thing to do as well. I'm saying it's easy. It is easy to start, but then you'll find all the things we've spoke about are the hard parts. Making the video a lot of the time is the simple part. It's everything else around it. And so I think that's something that always keep in mind with the criticism as well. There's been some comments from really notable people on some videos recently that have just been a bit. Do you realise that you're talking to a person when you send those comments? I've not had them, but I've seen them, and I'm like, I think that humanity kind of gets lost a wee bit. We're all doing this not as careers. We don't get paid for this. This is a hobby. We'll keep doing it, but it's very easy to chase people off. And so you always find that, as Jeff said in the comments, like really supportive community, really supportive. And when you go to the whiskey shows, you bump into people, and there's someone on Instagram who's called Whiskey Amateur who reached out to me last week and was like, look, I've got this PR event. Do you want to come? Like, I can get you down on it. And I was like, oh, I can't. I'm having friends around, whatever. But that was just from us meeting at the whiskey show in person and chatting and stuff like that. And it's all these opportunities and stuff. So there's a lot of positives. There's some haters. You need to deal with the haters. You just block them out. You can rant, as Vince said, you can go into Discord, you can rant about them there. But no, I think it's really encouraging. It kind of grew my love for whiskey even more by like finding communities of both us who make it, but also the viewership. There's nothing better than joining a V-pub on a Thursday night and going in the chat, and you see everybody welcoming each other and that community of online people. And I know they did Leg Fest and all that in Glasgow for Jimmy Leg, who's part of like all that is from us deciding to turn the camera on.
Yeah, mad, isn't it? Tim, are you back online?
I hope so. Can you hear me? Yeah. As you were saying, this is my first roundtable, and I had a great time. But being the first time, I did not budget my time for the earbuds, which died on me. And I see veteran Vin with the plug-in earbuds, which a veteran move. So next time, I'll know better. So I lost my audio.
No, it's all good. It's all good, and glad to have you on here. Hopefully, again, because it's a bit earlier on for you, isn't it? So it must have been a bit more of a challenge.
It's the afternoon, but this is what it is. It's about balance, right? Move some stuff around and make it available, and I'll have time to shoot my video later today because it's Tuesday.
Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, I think we better wrap up before we get too long. But I've covered everything that I wanted to cover for this. I think that's been really good coverage. I think we all agree with the major challenges. We'll be back again next month, TBC on who's going to host it, but I'll be posting about that on my socials and whatnot. But it leaves me just to say thanks to you three for coming on. I'll say cheers to you with the last of my drink, if anyone's got any left. And I'll say cheers to everyone watching. Thanks, everyone. I think it's been fairly consistent all the way through. Really appreciate it, as always. Thumbs up would go a long way to make this go further. And don't forget to follow everyone who's on screen today and everyone who does these roundtables. That's the whole point of these things, is to raise the profile of all of us together and have different hosts so we get different styles and things like that. But yeah, I'll say cheers to everybody. Another razor glass. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Vin.
Cheers, Vin.
Thank you.